Welcome to the SoMe Insights podcast.
SoMe stands for social media.
I'm Dante Licona, a social media strategist and consultant.
And I'm Matthias Lufkens, founder of Digitips.
In this podcast, we talk to the people who manage social media accounts for organizations and their executives. They all have interesting stories to tell.
The idea is to learn how they're managing accounts, how executives engage on each platform, and hear their tips and tricks. We want to learn from the best cases of social media usage.
Today, we are proud to have with us Aleksandra Kuzmanovic. She is the leadership social media advisor at the WHO and the mastermind that provides advice and support for the social media presence of Dr. Tedros, the Director General of the World Health Organization. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Alex, Dr. Tedros has become the most followed leader of a UN agency on social media with a combined following of over 4 million on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Threads, and X. How did you start providing support for Dr. Tedros?
Matthias, that's a great question. Dante knows the story. He's a little bit mastermind behind it, but you and your followers don't. So I'll tell you how it started. So it was 2018. I was working in a health and environment department in WHO, supporting the director of the department. And one day Dante calls me up and practically offers me a job to move to corporate social media of WHO. It took us some time to work out the paperwork, and eventually I joined in July 2018. And then on the first day of my new job, he tells me that he's leaving. I didn't take it personally, but it was a shocking news. And the second thing he told me, you need a US visa. We're going to UN General Assembly, which was approaching very soon. So my, fiery baptism was the UN General Assembly, where actually Dante was coaching me how to do the job. And very soon after he left. So that's how it started. After that assembly, I started to travel more with Dr. Tedros. I can't remember exactly. At that moment, the speechwriter would be the channel in between Dr. Tedros and us. But at some point, we kind of started having direct channel. It definitely started before COVID. But then in COVID, as Dr. Tedros is a hands-on social media leader, in COVID, he asked me to participate in all the meetings and engagements so that I can have the information firsthand. And then I can absorb and digest that into social media content. So the crisis, the way it was, lockdowns and everything was digital. All the meetings and all happenings and all communication was digital. So he well understood the need for us to do it as fast as possible. So here we are. This is a bit of how it started and how the job and relationship developed.
And on that same being, Alex, can you share with the audience what the social media advisor for the WHO Director General does on a regular day, or is there a regular day even?
I don't think there's a regular. I don't think there's a regular day, honestly. I don't think since that July 2018 that I had a bored day at work or a same day at work, which I do enjoy. I love the adrenaline and the excitement of it. But it really depends where I wake up and with which type of news I wake up. Ideally, how I like to start my day, I wake up, I check my notifications. So from there, I can see, do I have to jump in immediately, or I can take my coffee, familiarize myself with news and start the day. But if there is a crisis, whether it's a disaster or a conflict or a disease outbreak, then, you have an immediate response, reaching out to colleagues, finding out the information, what is happening, what we are doing, do we have enough to say at this moment, etc. Consulting with Dr. Tedros, does he want to go ahead on social media, or we should balance? So it really depends. If we are on a mission, then it starts really like getting into a program, making sure Dr. Tedros has all the material document that he would need. For me, that I have all the equipment that I may need, that I need to, take a good photo, react quickly, that my hands are relatively relaxed with whatever I have to carry, that I'm in that mode of like clicking, but also that I'm close enough so I can listen what is happening in those big events, so that I can actually take the right message for the social media audience.
And how does it feel to work on a daily basis with a world leader? Are you in touch with the advisors of other world leaders?
Honestly, sometimes, I'm not even aware of the environment, because first I'm focused on like how best I can help Dr. Tedros to capture his voice and his message and his presence wherever we are. And also because he's such a down to earth leader that he treats you as a normal person. So you have a very normal human approach and relationship. So he doesn't make you feel, oh, I'm the leader and you're working for me. It's actually partnership, collaboration, and that really makes our lives way easier. But then you just turn around at some point and like a couple of days ago, I was filming Dr. Tedros' speech on the first ever health day at COP28, when at some point I could see that Bill Gates is sitting in front of me and he entered my screen. So it's these big guys and very important people are around, and you are not always aware because you're trying to do your job. But the truth is that he is in this arena with top leaders. And this is where the responsibility and accountability is higher, because this is the league we are playing in. So this is how we need to upgrade our social media, because these are the top conversations and we want health to be at the table. It took us years, in this case of climate and COP28, to bring health to the table. So we need to make sure our presence is prominent on the ground, but then also for all people who are following outside, to show why health is important and why we need others to support the cause. So this is kind of the most recent example. In terms of contact with my counterparts, when my role changed from like corporate social media to the leadership social media manager, there was not that many jobs like clearly defined, at least not across the UN. That has changed, and I'm really glad, because in how fast things are changing, or in our case with how many crises we are dealing, you get into the rhythm of your own work and like just to do your job, that you don't really have time to step back and reflect. But now getting to know more of my counterparts and colleagues, like it's very helpful that you can share your struggles with someone, but also to learn from each other. And recently, when I went to New York for the UN General Assembly, I did dedicate some time to meet my counterparts from the UN agencies, but also from governments. And I'm hoping really to do more of that, because I think we can really primarily learn a lot from each other.
Alex, you have become the voice of Dr. Tedros. Does he approve every single post that you post on, or does he sometimes post himself? And if he does he coordinate his posts with you?
So you will be surprised, but Dr. Tedros is behind his channels. He is the one who presses the buttons. And I think this is one of the keys of his success. He knows what he's like. I'm there to support, advise, capture, but it's his voice and it's his decision how and what he's going to say. So as I mentioned, it's a partnership, it's a collaboration but at the end of the day, it's his individual account, it's his voice, it's his human face that contributes to WHO's corporate voice. It's a combination. So I've seen and I've learned that many leaders have no access, like they don't even log into their accounts and someone else is pressing all the buttons. For me, that's insane. We're talking here about social media. Social media is about connecting with other human beings socializing. So if you are running an individual account, then you expect that person to be behind it. So this is why as well, like people, when they see him, oh, Dr. Tedros like this, or that Dr. Tedros followed me, like that comes from him. I can suggest, but most of these activities is actually Dr. Tedros, and he understands the value of that. He came with that understanding to WHO, and that actually helped WHO to step up the game when it comes to social media.
I mean,
Interesting.
it's super interesting, Alex. Thanks for sharing all these insights. And indeed, he was super active during his time in the as a government official. He was definitely leading the way over there. The doctor, in a very tactical ways, Dr. Tedros' account has activated features on X for editing posts, writing longer tweets. What are the advantages that you see using those features?
I must say that WHO fell into category, and him as a principal of the agency, like government leaders with that like gray verification or status, or like gray tick of X. So in a way, it was given to us to use those features. But I think it's helpful in particular, when we are responding to a conflict crisis that can have a lot of geopolitical implications. And it's hard sometimes to put it all as clear and proper in 280 characters. So it is really helpful for us for that type of communication, that we have at disposal longer posts where we can put all we need to put in one message. We used threads, but people see the top one, they don't necessarily look down, etc. So this really enables us to have a full content or message in there. Or if you want to have a full statement, now we don't need to wait to go to the web team to be posted on the web for the photo to upload, and then you use the link back. Here, it's one click away. And if it's his statement, he can just go ahead and say, here's my statement, boom. So it does have advantages, in particular for this type of communication, that we have more features at disposal.
During the COVID pandemic and lockdown in spring 2020, Dr. Tedros shared a handful of one-word posts, such as courage, humanity, honesty, humility. Can you tell us more about how these, who had the idea for these one-liners or one-word posts?
So on those ones, full credit to Dr. Tedros himself. It was his idea. And I think as the world was in a very, it's not that we are not in a difficult situation nowadays, but at that moment of lockdowns, pandemic, etc., and everyone was looking up to us and to him, I think he felt that it's important to share some, humanity values and principles that we should actually follow in this collective response to a global crisis. There were a lot of challenges we were facing, and everyone was facing. It was hard for everyone. Every single person has been touched by this virus. So I think this is where this came from. It's like a simple message and reminder of, like, I would say humanity values that were needed to be heard and said.
How does success look like? He is the most followed leader of a UN agency. Do you think about metrics as key performance indicators, and which ones are those?
So, of course, we look into metrics. We look into followers, we look into engagement. But I think when it comes to an individual, as a social media manager, people would always expect from you to make things go viral. But things not necessarily go viral for good. It may be a criticism. But I think when we look into individual voice, I think the quality of engagement and quality of content matters more than big numbers. In particular, we live in this era of so much misinformation, disinformation, noise. So for a top leader of a health agency with so many health threats at the moment, I think the quality of the message and content, and then if a smaller audience size or group engages with that and understands, I think it's of more value than having big numbers. So I think it's really a mixture of indicators depending on the message, depending on the moment that we are looking up to. Dr. Tedros also has variety of audiences from, top government leaders, top private sector leaders, general public, scientists, journalists. So it really does depend on like who we are sending message to. I don't think that like in one indicator or two indicators is like fit all of those purposes.
Thank you, Alex. Can you share a particularly memorable experience while supporting Dr. Tedros' social media?
Someone asked me this recently, and I kind of blocked. I couldn't really stick out one particular thing. There have been so many good and hard moments and different missions, but maybe the one with the highest purpose, I would say, or like for me, was when we went to northwest Syria earlier this year after the earthquake hit. And what we witnessed there, the communities that we met, the health workers that we met, and the circumstances, how they operate and where they live, was, it's dire. And he was the first principal to enter there after 12 years of conflict. So he's also a child of war. I witnessed some type of war and bombing as a child. And I think seeing other children going through that was kind of a new connecting point. And when you witness those dire circumstances, I think your responsibility to make your work even more prominent and also to use the tools you have to tell the world that we need to do more to help those people and children. I think that was one of the key, I would say, or like game changing of thinking, like, where is humanity and how can we use all tools that we have at disposals to bring more attention, resources, and support to communities like those.
Dr. Tedros brought his personal account into the organization, and that personal account has grown exponentially during the COVID pandemic. Did the WHO ever consider setting up an institutional social media account for the Director General, such as WHO Chief, just as UNICEF does and others? What do you think?
I mean, if we look into the way Dr. Tedros adds his voice to WHO work, it's really bringing a human face and also a human voice that comes with its, political length, but also with like very human and personal touch to it. It's kind of unique, and it's unique to his personality. I'm not sure that the WHO's success in combination of corporate and Dr. Tedros' voice would be if he had another corporate voice. Mm-hmm. And in our case, as we mentioned, he came with that presence, and then he enabled us to do more with corporate accounts, with corporate partnership with social media platforms. That was the combination that has been working for us so far. WHO also encourages colleagues to use their individual accounts to bring more of a human face to our work. That's our social media policy. So I think that he's leading the way of that policy. From my personal perspective, again, going back to the purpose of social media and social connections, I think having a personal voice brings more value. But I think that really depends from the organization to organization, depending on what do you want to achieve. I think having a potential WHO chief account is something for maybe next DG to consider, depending who the person would be, depending on their views on social media and how they want to engage.
And talking about individual use of social media, Alex, you are walking the talk. You are sharing insights from your role. How do you see your presence on your social channels?
I'm trying to be more active. I think I do have some regrets for not doing more during COVID, because I think we were learning so much. And the other thing is that I learned in COVID that my colleagues in health institutions, public health institutes, ministries of health, are lacking capacity to keep up with the digital ecosystem. And I do believe strongly that social media can be a public health tool, that we can reach so many more people with one click if we provide content in a right way for the right audience. So I'm hoping to help and inspire colleagues who work across the world in health sector to be more active. WHO has received a lot of support from the social and tech industry, and that also enabled us to test more tactics, features, etc. So I'm hoping that if I share more, I can help those colleagues as well to not necessarily start from scratch, but build on our experience. I mean, it has been very busy couple of years, but I wish I dedicated more time to share things in real time, because now even myself, I'm struggling to remember all the details and all the situations. So I'm trying to keep up now and to share more reflections as we go forward in the current moment.
Definitely an account to follow, yours, on all
Thank you.
platforms. Finally, a battery of standard questions that we ask of all our guests. First of all, who is your favorite and most inspiring social media mentor?
So I think that is one of you here, my coach and my friend Dante. I mean, he brought me to the job, but he continued to be my close friend, a person of trust. But also, I don't think that anyone else dares to ask me questions that he does, to challenge me in my work, and in a way to push me to set my bars higher. So I'm grateful for Dante's role. I think from other social media colleagues, I do follow their work. It's inspiring and I like to learn. But I think mentorship is a bit more from that. So I would say Mr. Dante Licona. No pressure though.
No pressure there at all. Alex, which are your 3 favorite accounts to follow?
I do mostly follow G7, G20 leaders, or like other political leaders, given the area of work. I do follow a lot President Macron's photographer. I think it's very creative how he captures the moments behind the scene and the personality of the president. If I may reflect a bit on that, there's not that many female leaders, unfortunately, at that level. I hope in future we'll have more. But even those who are playing at that level, it's still, as we can, as the world is set by rules of man, I feel that also female leaders on social media are playing among those rules. And I think I would like to see more of a female touch in female leadership presence on social media. Women also have to juggle a lot of things between private and professional life. And I think it would be good to show more of that in future if we see more female leaders. Maybe AOC was the one who brought, as a young woman, who brought a new dimension on how political leaders are communicating very naturally, spontaneously. This is what I'm doing, or like, thank you very much for this, or I've been in a hard session and I disagree because of ABC. So it's really like a normal human being sharing reflections. So I would like to see more of that. Besides the political arena, who I follow most recently are basketball channels. So the Basketball World Cup a couple of months ago, I think they had excellent coverage across social media platforms. It was in real time, but it was with a lot of humor. And it was a great fun and entertainment to follow, but you still have the updates in real time. So I connected with their social media strategies on LinkedIn to find out more how they did the coverage. But EuroLeague is up from Belgrade, but they really upgraded the game last 2 seasons. And it's not like football, where you have all the money in the world to invest in marketing. Here, you really need to be more creative to get more fans and following. So, and I think it's important for us as well to look into other industries and how they are making the most of social media to provide you with fun, but also serious content from their work. So maybe these are some to suggest.
Good shout out to the sports federations and FIBA there. Which are your favorite social media channels for professional and or personal use?
Personally, Instagram is my go-to place. I keep my personal account there very private and close, and it's my escape for travel, fashion, and what I as a person like. Professionally, I'm using X and LinkedIn, and so far, I think LinkedIn is a bit more closer to my type of content. And with changing on X, I think I need to find how best to voice out myself there. I don't think I found the recipe for my voice there yet. I think it's still important with all, views over X as a platform is still very impactful platform. It's where the news is, it's where the leaders are. So I think it's important to keep the presence there, but I haven't found the right tone yet for my voice.
Do you have a podcast that you are listening to right now?
Not really. I listen to podcasts mostly by recommendation. I normally do listen stuff when I'm walking, and somehow if I listen to a podcast, often like my mind just goes somewhere else. So listening to music in those moments, I think works best for me so far. And I think it comes with like the level of information that I absorb during the day, that if it's not a must, my brain goes elsewhere. So unfortunately, no, but I think there's so many good podcasts out there, and it's a great tool for us to learn more from each other as well, and more in-depth content rather than just like short social media or digital products.
Do you ever disconnect, and how do you avoid social media burnout?
Good question. I think this is an area for improvement, definitely. For me personally, my work-life balance is not exemplary. However, I think I found a way, especially during the weekend, if something comes in and it's not a breaking news or a crisis, that I can live in peace with leaving it for later and finish my meal or grocery or whatever I'm doing. If it's a crisis mode, then it's very hard. It's also, if you're in a crisis mode, it's hard to disconnect, and it's very hard to reconnect again, because it's way harder to get back on track. And when I go on holidays, I then try, and my colleagues do insist that I disconnect, including Dr. Tedros. It takes you some time. First days, you can't really, you can't just like cut it off. Oh yeah, I'm not there anymore. I do like to be, informed. And if it's not professional social media, then I follow my, IG content, etc. So I don't think I ever disconnect from social media. But work-wise, when I'm on leave, it takes me a couple of days to really gradually disconnect. And then you actually enjoy that peaceful time.
And finally, in one sentence, what is your social media mantra?
For those who know me well, they know I'm a big fan of Disneyland. And my social media mantra is that social media isn't Disneyland. A lot of people expect that, you go on social media for likes and love. Actually, social media is a tough environment. And, it's a real reality check. As much as we connect with people who we would never maybe able to meet otherwise, there's a lot of critiques out there, and they also have easier access to get back to you. So I think whoever is participating in a social media environment, whether professionally or to be the voice, it's something that we need to accept, that this is not a magical place.
Alex, thank you for your time and your honest answers. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of the SoMe podcast with me, Matthias Lufkens.
And me, Dante Ricona. Please subscribe and follow us on our social accounts. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Until
and
next time.
until next time.
Goodbye.